Back in with the Mark Houston Show. Alabama One Insurance. Voted the best of the best in 2019 in Tuscaloosa by the Tuscaloosa News. Alabama One offers you all the insurance you need to protect your most valuable assets: auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, yes, and even pet insurance. Call, email, or visit our website today for a free, no obligation quote at alabamaoneinsurance.com, or stop by our main branch location on 15th Street, or call us at 205-342-0112, 205-342-0112. That's Alabama One Insurance, your one source for all your insurance needs. All right, it's time for us to get into a little recruiting talk with Hank South, 247 Sports. Hank South brings us and keeps us in the loop. Alabama struggling only a month or so ago, but now potentially could be on their way to a rise. I saw a 247 article by Steve Wiltfong that said race for number one. Alabama's surge to the top could begin soon. So I ask you, Mr. Hank South, how you doing first of all this morning?
Doing good. Thanks. How are you, Martin?
Doing well. Well, one of your team members there saying Alabama could make a surge toward the top. You got some news to share with us? Some big potential commitments coming?
Yeah, it looks like June could be a very good month for the Alabama Crimson Tide football program on the recruiting trail. We've seen little pockets of life in terms of, getting big commitments in the last month and a half, whether it be Ajay Hall, Ja'Cory Brooks, Ian Jackson at the end of May. But at the end of the day, it was still only 6 commitments. You look at the, recruiting rankings out there, and, Ohio State, I think, has almost 20. A lot of schools are filling up throughout this whole coronavirus dead period, accepting commitments and really, picking up some momentum without kids actually visiting. And Alabama's still, been taking their methodical approach. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. They're still trying to do their evaluation process, check all the critical factors boxes that, Nick Saban is known to do. And that's kind of resulted in a little bit slower of a start. But, I guess we've been following it the last few weeks, but really since Saturday, a 5-star prospect named J.C. Latham, an offensive tackle from IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. He's actually originally from Wisconsin, but he's playing at IMG Academy. He announced that he's ready to make a commitment, and Ben has been trending for him. And it's been a case where, Ohio State's been thought to be the favorite for so long for J.C. Latham. LSU was kind of considered the top competition earlier in the spring, but about the last month or so, month and a half, it was clear Bama had been doing making a lot of progress in his recruitment, and actually is the team considered to be the team to beat at this point in time. His crystal ball is 100% to Alabama. When he'll make a commitment, we're not sure. Everyone's kind of under the consensus that it'll be sometime this week when he announces. So we're kind of on J.C. Latham watch at this point. But, to add a 5-star to the class that's already put together, that would obviously shoot Bama up in the rankings. And then, there's several other 5-star recruits that are in the mix for, whether it be, another 5-star offensive tackle in Tommy Brockermeyer, obviously JaQuincy McKinstry, the 5-star cornerback from Pinson Valley. So it looks like things are starting to truly pick up, with some of these guys, seemingly on the verge of making announcements, and with Bama being in good shape for them.
Wow. So we've been trending for Tommy Brockermeyer and, of course, James Brockermeyer, number one center and 5-star offensive tackle. Is he the number one tackle as well? Brockermeyer, I know he's close, him and J.C. Latham. Does J.C. Latham choosing the tie potential this week hurt them with the Brockermeyer or not?
As far as the rankings, I think I know 24/7 Sports has J.C. Latham ranked the number one offensive tackle, but I believe Tommy Brockermeyer is still the number one offensive tackle in the composite ranking.
Correct.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And no, to answer your question, I really don't think it does. I checked in on that. Once we kind of we got the feeling that Bama was the team to beat for J.C. Latham officially and put in crystal ball picks. I checked in on that. That was one of the first things I did. It seems like, if anything, it helps. I think, both the brothers are, highly competitive guys, both Tommy and James. James is a 4-star center. He's actually ranked the number 1 center in the recruiting rankings. So certainly a highly coveted recruit in his own right. But no, I don't think this has any negative effect from who I've talked to in terms of, their decisions and where Bama stands for them.
At this point, if you get those three, that's when you start talking about, well, it doesn't really matter where you finish. You know what I mean? Because if you start getting need positions and you get two of the best projected talents at tackle position in today's football game, one guy's number 1 overall in one ranking, one guy's composite overall number 1, and then the other guy's number 1 at center. You're putting together a pretty good team. We'll come back to a couple more questions off of that, Hank, but let's bring in Pat. Pat, you're on with Hank South 247 Sports. What's on your mind?
Good morning, fellas. Hey, if you throw Americus Mims into that quote at 6'8" and 320, this could be feasibly the best offensive line ever in history. What do you think, Hank?
See, I didn't even get to him. He was the one I was going to come back to.
Yeah, no, that's something. It's funny because Amarius Mims, he comes out and names Bama his leader, and everyone just doesn't believe him. Everyone's just like, no, you're going to Georgia. We don't care what you say. But, everyone, I think Amarius Mims really, really likes Alabama. Everyone we've talked to has said they've used the word enamored with Alabama. So, crazier things have happened. We saw the outside linebacker, edge rusher class Bama signed last year. That would be kind of the equivalent, I think, of, Bama landing Latham, Brockermeyer, and Mims, maybe a little bit more of a splash with the offensive lineman there. But I've always thought all along that, Georgia's going to end up keeping him home. I think that's kind of the consensus. But, I think Bama's right there for him. If J.C. Latham were to go elsewhere, even Tommy Brockermeyer, go elsewhere. These recruitments, these guys aren't signing anything yet. They're just committing or making a commitment.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Hey, well, my other question is, it's very important that we sign a really good middle linebacker in this class, a true middle linebacker. Because with Moses leaving, the one I'm looking at is Blackshire, looks to be a prototype middle linebacker at 260 pounds. Is his athleticism anywhere close to Moses?
Yeah, I think Blackshire is the guy that's still turning to Bama. I feel like we were talking about this time last year. He visited Bama for camp at the beginning of June. Looked like he was on the verge of committing. Came back for the cookout, the Champions Cookout mid-June. Didn't commit. He went quiet for a while. I feel like he had a knee injury his junior season, so he was doing a lot of rehab process throughout the year, but. We checked back in with him, early this spring in March, and Bama was still right there for him. He actually seemingly almost committed in April or early May. He has said, he thinks Bama is trending for him in his recruitment. He just hasn't made a commitment yet, and so we'll see. I think visits could play a factor with him. Whether he can take any more or when he can take them, I think that might impact his decision. But I think Bama is still trending for him pretty heavily at this point. And obviously, Deontay Lawson committed as well.
Good deal. That's great news. Hey, and I tell Martin that this class, he's been worried to death, and the
I haven't been worried about the afternoon.
They're worried to death. It's a process. Nick's got it under control.
Hey,
and
Pat,
this class is going to finish in the top 3.
I host this show, right? So
yes, sir.
I'm not going to let you put words in my mouth. I have not been worried about this class. I just said that Nick Saban needs to start getting some commitment, because I don't care how good Nick Saban is, if he has to, it's always easier to get your own than it is to steal from someone else.
Yeah,
and at one point, hold on. At one point, back to Hank's point, these teams were getting commitments like crazy, and no one was visiting because Nick Saban was waiting on the camps. And when the camps went away, that was the critical moment. Nick Saban appears to have adjusted to that now. Okay, but he was still, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hank, until they canceled those camps, there was really no movement either way because Alabama likes to see guys in person.
Yep. Hey, understand this, Morton. Nick Saban is the greatest closer in college football history. That's just a fact. And, hey, and we will have them in the end, I promise you.
I never doubted we would, but if they're not out there, listen, Pat, I've been through the recruiting process.
Yeah, I know you have.
No, but let me explain something to you. NC State was where I was going. I loved NC State. You know why I ended up at Alabama? Probably other than guys, ordaining. But it snowed the weekend I was supposed to go to NC State. And the next week I came to Alabama and I committed. And you know what? I would not take my visit to NC State. You know why? Because I knew if
you had morals, Martin. Most kids these days don't.
I mean, I try to be a man of my word, but I knew that if I went up to NC State, Hank, because I already loved the school and everything that it told me, but I had not visited. And I said, if the only way I wouldn't go to NC State if I went up there and they just totally bombed the visit. So what I did was I just canceled the visit.
Well, I'm glad you didn't go to NC State because they got one of the finest ice cream schools in America, and they make only their students get to eat the ice cream made there, and it is wonderful. I have to agree. Anyway, have a blessed day, Martin. Thank you, Hank.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was actually going there for because of computer science. I was kind of a nerd. In 1987, Hank, can you believe that one of my criteria was that I was thinking about going into computer science?
That's wild.
Yeah, well, yeah. And people like, did they even have computers back then? I think, they were those big behemoth machines, and a few people had the little laptops, but not many. But anyway, that's the thing that people don't understand about recruiting. You don't know what is going to hook these guys, and with Nick Saban, he's adjusted. That's the best way you can say it. So
absolutely,
with him making that adjustment, where else is he going? What else does Alabama have coming up? Potentially, other than those guys you mentioned earlier in the program with Latham and Brockermeyer.
Yeah, it's such a crazy time. I feel like every day you turn around and kids are setting commitment dates. Troy Franklin, who's one of the top receivers in the country from California, he's announcing, I guess, tomorrow, the 12th. Yeah, Friday. Mm-hmm. He kind of just came out and said that. I know TJ Ballers, a defensive end from Iowa, he tweeted late last night, tomorrow. So, all these kids are kind of just deciding to go ahead and commit. I think, in terms of Alabama and guys, they're going after those two guys are targets, but kind of looking beyond J.C. Latham or even maybe the Brockermeyer brothers, Dallas Turner, who's an edge rusher from South Florida. Mm-hmm. He came out and said he wants to make a decision in July. That's a Bama-Georgia battle race right there. It kind of goes back and forth. He said Bama has an edge for him at one point, and then he changes his mind every day as far as who's the team to beat. So that's kind of a back and forth one there. We're still watching for Christian Leary, the 4-star slot receiver from Florida. That's emerged. A guy from Florida, it's emerged as an Alabama-Auburn battle in the last couple of weeks. He was set to commit last Saturday on his mom's birthday, and he decided to hold off from that. So just keeping an eye on that. Maybe Auburn has some momentum there. We'll see. Another Bama target set a commitment date for July 11th, and Kyrie Jackson. He's a JUCO defensive back he's from Maryland originally, but he's at East Mississippi right now, has been in his top 6. So, I think, throughout the month we're going to see more and more guys, because if you think about it, the dead period is through July 31st, but you got to imagine that, nobody's going to take meaningful visits until the earliest of September. So,
right.
If then, who knows what the visits are going to look like this fall.
Right.
So I think guys are kind of coming to that realization and I think pulling the trigger a little bit quicker this summer.
Yeah, and like I said, I had fallen completely in love with NC State without ever going to the campus enough that they had sold me enough on what the experience would be like and the program would be like that all the visit was going to be was to confirm. And same thing with it was those two. It came down to between those two, and they got me on campus first.
Yeah.
So, but hey, there was one other kid I want to ask you about. Xavier Sori. Of course, he has the best picture of all. Of course, every time I see his picture, I laugh. He has the little, I call it the inside of the helmet on his head for protective gear. But 6'3", 214. We haven't just listed as an athlete. Is he another one of those guys kind of along the lines of the Ian Jackson that Nick Saban is recruiting that maybe safety, maybe outside linebacker, may beef up and be inside linebacker?
Yeah, I think with Story, because I think Ian Jackson could even, project it potentially, playing safety more so. I think Story is kind of more of a linebacker, projection.
Okay.
He's recruited as an outside linebacker, but I think he can certainly play inside if he needed to. But yeah, he does a little bit of everything for his high school in Florida. But yeah, that's a recruitment that I've been shocked it wasn't Alabama for the early half. That was kind of a clear team to beat. I think it's it was his family's preference, still could be. But as time has gone on, Florida's working real hard to keep him in state. Georgia's pushing for him real hard, so it's become much more of a heated contest for him. I still have a pick on Alabama. I haven't really heard much of anything to change that yet, so kind of keeping an eye on that. But yeah, one of the top targets in the class for Alabama.
All right. Any other closing thoughts you have to share with us?
I don't think so. I think just the big news of the week is J.C. Latham watch. That's kind of the theme this week for Bama recruiting, so we'll be keeping an eye on that, and we're kind of following that throughout the day, throughout the rest of the week.
All right. That's Hank South 247 Sports. Hank, tell them real quick where they can find you, what you got coming up, man.
Sure. BamaOnline.com. Fresh new recruiting articles every day. There's still team coverage. Charlie Potter and Travis Ryan Recruitment there do a really good job as well. So we're doing a 30% off deal if you sign up today. And then my Twitter handle is @HankSouth247.
All right, that's @HankSouth247. If you're not following it, you're missing out. @HankSouth247. Thanks, Hank. We'll catch up with you next week.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Martin.
Come back on the other side. We'll put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show.